Hello, podcast fam. I am thrilled to share some exciting news. My book, Sow, Grow, Lead, is officially live on Amazon. This book is more than just my story of starting a nonprofit and building a peanut butter factory in Malawi. So trust me, the ups and downs of that journey are worth the read. It's also packed with practical strategies to help nonprofit leaders like you tackle challenges with clarity, courage, and a whole lot of heart. If you've ever wondered how to turn your vision into reality, navigate the inevitable hurdles, and build something meaningful, whether in your organization or in your own life, this book is for you. I'd be so grateful for your support in spreading the word. Grab your copy of Sow, Grow, Lead in the show notes and on Amazon today. Let's keep sowing seeds of impact together. Are you a nonprofit professional who's feeling overwhelmed and burnt out? Well, welcome to the Lead with Heart podcast. I am your host, Haley Cooper. On this podcast, we will share stories of leadership, courage, and empathy that'll help you learn to take care of yourself, your staff, organization, and community. You will hear from nonprofit leaders who have been in your shoes and have learned best practices to raise more revenue and make a greater impact. Let's thrive together. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Lead with Heart podcast. This is your host, Haley Cooper. And today on the podcast, I have Katelyn Baughan, which I am so excited because she has been super helpful in my own journey as a nonprofit consultant and a mompreneur, which I just made up that word, but just being a working mom and overall just super inspirational. And a little bit about Katelyn. She is a marketing consultant who is passionate about helping good causes develop marketing strategies that make an impact. After spending time working in the tech industry, Katelyn was called to use her marketing skills to create change and entered the nonprofit arena. Well, welcome to the light side, Katelyn, nonprofit work. And I'm just so glad that you're here.
Thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure. And it's been such a pleasure seeing you grow and start your own consultancy and on to your third child. It's just crazy. And I'm so excited for you.
Thank you. Well, I've gotten to know you a little bit over the last year, but just for the purposes of this podcast, I would love for you to share a little bit more about what you do and really what led you to this work. And I know your business is shifting, which we'll get to, but yeah, why don't you just talk about like how you got started with KP Digital?
Sure. Yeah. So I started, like Haley said, in the tech sector, and I just had a really deep desire to do more meaningful work. This wasn't in my bio, but I actually took a role early on in the volunteer department at a nonprofit, but started helping the marketing communications department and ended up there. I worked there for about 5 years at a nonprofit in Bethesda on the NIH campus called the Children's Inn at NIH, where I was their marketing manager. And I got to the point where I just felt like it was time to move on. I wasn't sure where I was going to move on. And at the same time, I had just had my first daughter, I have 2 daughters, and was really craving some more flexibility and autonomy. And so I was like, why don't I just try consulting? When I was a marketing manager, I hired the consultant and she was making triple what my salary was and was working less. And I was like, that's a good gig. Let me try that. And I'm on about 4 years now of KB Digital. I'm a digital marketing consultant. I help nonprofits with their marketing strategies, but also with more specifically with email marketing strategies and executing email marketing. So yeah, that's a little bit about me and how I got to where I am.
Well, congratulations on your journey and the brave and courageous step of stepping out on your own. And I know from my own experience how rewarding it can be. Also, it presents challenges, but just congratulations on that overall move. And I know that you have been super successful and worked with some amazing nonprofits over the years as you have stepped out on your own. So I want to dive a little bit deeper into like digital marketing and email marketing strategies. I know from my own experience, like marketing is generally something that nonprofits don't invest in, or they expect their fundraisers to do the marketing. And so something that we've talked about offline is, why is fundraising and marketing so important? And like, what can people do? They often work in silos and they serve different purposes. That sometimes I know I've had conversations where I'm a fundraiser, but they're like, you could do social media marketing. And I'm like, I wasn't trained in that. I was trained in fundraising and leadership. And I also say that I'm a millennial who doesn't know how to do social media. But can you talk a little bit about what the purposes of both roles are and how we can work together to really further our mission?
Oh man, this is such a good question. And I think you and I were talking about this because Mallory Erickson had brought it up and she did a conversation about it. And so I've been thinking about this for a few weeks now. And to be honest, I'm almost embarrassed to say, even as a nonprofit marketer with over a decade of experience, it's really hard for me to wrap my head around like what the differences are between fundraising and marketing, because they are so closely intertwined. And there seems to be a lot of overlap, especially if you're going to small nonprofits who have small teams. They want to get the most out of what they have rather than hiring somebody else to do it. And marketing has just changed so much over the years. It used to be traditional marketing, like in-person events and meetings, direct mail, print pieces, TV commercials. And now there's more of a focus on digital to make fundraising omni-channel and integrated. And it used to be a very linear process with a beginning and an end, the end being, in a nonprofit's case, the donation. Now it's a very cyclical process where marketing is very involved in every part of the supporter and donor journey, from the beginning before they make the donation and attracting them, acquiring them, to the very end after they make the donation, which they get a receipt and maybe they're cultivated if they're a first time donor in a specific way. And so we really need to work closely with fundraisers. And I've worked really closely with the development departments as they launch fundraising campaigns and they're engaging with donors online. And I found these two roles, fundraising and marketing, they just require a ton of collaboration, while the fundraisers will oftentimes like set the campaign timelines and the themes or some of the content. They often need marketing to help with like the execution and the integrated portion of the campaign. And so if you need marketing to help with execution, you always want them to be involved from the very beginning so that the teams can work closely together to understand the goals and expectations and plan all the other things, the stewardship and awareness campaigns around these like tentpole fundraising campaigns that are happening throughout the year. And specifically, I think it's also it's easier to understand if you think of it in terms of, these are the things that fundraisers do and these are the things that marketers do. And I can speak more, maybe you could speak more about things that fundraisers do, and I could speak more about things that marketers do. But marketers typically are more involved in paid advertisement, social media management, website development, creating and sending emails, blog content, video marketing, helping with the creation of donation forms, and search engine optimization. There's a lot more, but those are like a lot of things that marketers do. And then in my experience, and there's a ton more that I would love to hear from you about, fundraisers are more like, they do the in-person meetings with donors, the direct mail strategy and execution, board management, like sponsorships, types of donor funds, corporate partnerships, donor database management. Like that stuff has always, in my experience, been fundraisers and like the development department. But I'd love to hear like what your take is too, because you're the fundraiser in all of this and our roles are different in some ways. So I'd love to hear from you, Haley.
Yeah, and thank you so much for sharing that distinction. And like you said, like we need to work together on our campaigns. And I'll get to this question about donor engagement strategies because that's what I'm super passionate about. And something I just posted on my Instagram stories today. Another piece is grant writing and foundation relations. And fundraising is all about relationships. We can send the direct mail, we can send the emails, and those are important to get in people's inboxes and keep you top of mind. But at the end of the day, if you want someone to make a transformational gift, you can't ask for that in a direct mail piece. Generally, like when I experience fundraising, I would never send a direct mail piece to my major gift donors because I didn't want them to feel like, oh, well, you're just asking me for $2,500. Like that's what I'm going to give. When really from building that relationship and understanding their passions and interests, they can invest so much more. And it honestly does a disservice to that person and can even offend them if you're not asking them when you've already built that relationship and that you have that permission to ask them for a large gift. And so, yeah, when it comes down to it, it is that relationship. But what I want to ask you is something that we're filming this at the end of January. We just came off the year-end strategy. And I highly doubt a lot of nonprofits have said thank you to their donors. I think we've talked about this, how we subscribe to different nonprofits or give small donations just to see what they do as experiments, but also obviously to give back. And I've only received a handful of thank yous or thank you notes from places that I've given in 2023. So I would love to know like what some strategies on your side that, and like the marketing side that people can utilize to just communicate with their donors and, like I said before, stay top of mind.
Yeah, that's funny that you say that because I joined tons of like a handful of monthly donor programs just to see how they're run and what other nonprofits are doing as far as promoting and cultivating their monthly donors. And a lot of them do nothing. Like I didn't even get a thank you. So yeah, I always, when you're creating campaigns, there should always be the very last email should be a thank you specifically to the donor. When we're talking about email marketing, should be a thank you specifically to the donor and always showing the impact that the donation had. And I think you should be thanking donors year round. You should be thanking them more than you're asking. Like we ask for too much without the cultivation and the nurturing portion of things. So yeah, I think email is probably the best way to do that. You should always have an automated confirmation receipt if someone's donating online. And I don't think social is really the right place to do it, to be honest, unless you can import a list of donors that into like advertising and thank them specifically, because really only 1% to 2% of people that are following you are going to see that message. And so, yeah, I think email is probably the best way to do that.
Yeah, I love that insight. And I know that that's something that you're focusing on more is email marketing. And I think it's such a strategic tool to use to communicate to your donors. I would love to shift a little bit to talk about, I think a lot of times, at least when I've entered nonprofits, they've done some sort of like marketing audit or really reaching out to see what their target audience is. And how can leaders or marketing directors really use, or is a marketing audit, I should say, even a place to start? What's included in a marketing audit and how can leaders use that to ensure the whole organization is working towards a common goal?
Yeah, when I provide more of like strategy services, I always start with an audit to analyze what they're currently doing and how it's performing. I always suggest that if they have the skills to look at the data, looking specifically at your data to see, are people opening your emails? Are they clicking on them? Where are people coming to your website from? Okay, so if people are coming to your website from email, then that is a red flag that you should probably invest a little bit more in your email marketing, segmentation, storytelling, and all of that. If 20% of people are coming from organic social, then I would say, yes, you should be focusing more on cultivating people on organic social. Same with if you're doing any paid advertising efforts. Is that really making a difference? Look at the numbers, because I think there's a lot of things that we assume that are not true. And so if you can get hard data, then that's always where I start, is just looking at some key metrics and analytics and really seeing how things are working and seeing the story that the numbers are telling, and then digging a little bit deeper into that. And you can do that with email. You can dig deeper into what emails performed really well, or what type of content performed well, or where did people click in the email and how many people converted from the email, and look deeper into it. But definitely, I say look at the data first. And secondly, the nonprofits that I've worked with that have been really successful in terms of being a leader and helping their teams work towards a common goal, it's really important to tie all of your team's goals to the organizational goals. When everybody is on the same page and working towards a common goal, then that's when you find results. Key performance indicators, or KPIs, are typically like numbers, solid numbers, and should be determined, and strategies and what you're doing to move the needle forward should all work towards those KPIs. And so, if your organizational goal is to acquire new supporters, then as a marketing team, your goal should be to acquire new supporters through advertising, through email building, through whatever tactic or strategy you're deciding to do. And then regularly checking in, like weekly, monthly, on those metrics to see what's working and what's not working, because a lot of marketing is testing. We all know we're moving towards this goal. We think this might help us get there. Let's try it and let's test and see, like, next month, did this work or not? And if not, that's when you decide and you're agile and you maybe pivot to trying something a little bit different. So I would say, as long as you have a clear strategy and direction, your team is going to feel more motivated. And that's also going to tie into the bigger organizational goals. And things are going to feel like they're moving in the right direction in terms of leading your team.
Yes, I love those strategies. I am one for data and numbers and influencing decisions. And I like what you said about how, like, marketing is all about testing. And what came to mind for me was, like, how do you sell that to a leader? Because I'm a grant writer, and that's one of the services that I offer. And grants aren't always a sure thing. There's a lot that goes involved into it in terms of, like, foundation relationships and having a good proposal and timing and all of that stuff, and being in alignment with the mission. And I just had a client who I signed who was like, well, it's hard to sell to my board because I'm hiring you, but it's not like a sure thing that this is going to be the outcome. And you have to tell me how many grants you think you can secure financially, right? And so my question to you is, as someone like a marketing manager or a marketing associate, like someone doing the work, how do you manage up from that perspective of, we're going to be testing and pivoting? And how do you tell that to someone, I guess, as a consultant, but also that someone's in-house? Like, how do you make that a good sell? Because obviously it works, but people want that, like, direct outcome. So how do you measure that testing to make sure that it is successful?
I think that there's two ways to do it. One way is to provide like-minded, like, examples of like-minded organizations who have been really successful doing these certain things. And typically people want to see that it has worked for somebody else first before they try it. And so that's a good way that I've used. Here are some examples of other tests that I've done, or here's some examples of a like-minded organization who is doing this and they're having really great results. That usually works. And then back to the data and the numbers. If there's something that you can pick out marketing wise, if you did really well for example, let's say you tried an influencer campaign and you noticed that your traffic really jumped high during that time that the campaign was happening. If you can prove that and say, well, this worked really well for last year when we did this campaign, let's try it this year and add on maybe this. And so just making little tweaks, not like big, huge waves, but little tweaks of testing certain things and always being able to go back and prove that it had worked previously, whether that's within your organization or whether that's looking to other organizations who are ahead of you or that you all look up to. And so Charity Water is one that everybody loves and wants to compare themselves to. We're not Charity Water, but Charity Water doesn't ask people for donations every single quarter in an email. They really are great at storytelling and cultivating people through their monthly donor program. And so showing people like, this is what really works for this organization. Let's try it. And I think you have to not be afraid to try things. And sometimes they don't work and that sucks, but that's just the way it is. Like you have to risk to get a reward.
Yes,
what do you think? What's worked for you?
I love that perspective. And I think the thing that I offer is more than just grant writing. It's really helping refine the narrative. And so I want to talk to you a little bit about that and like storytelling, because grant writing is both, and fundraising is both storytelling and like data. And it's really important to have those key messages like intact to be able to clearly and concisely communicate what you do. And I think a lot of nonprofits struggle with that because they do so much and they're running 1,000,000 miles per hour. And I know I've run into nonprofits that I'm like, I don't even know what you're doing. How am I supposed to communicate this? And really getting down to what that story is and refining that and really getting clear on those outcomes and metrics and then guiding those people. Like I said before, like it's all about relationships. So how can you build a relationship with this person and see how you can further that partnership? So I would love to ask you from an email marketing perspective, because there's only so much that you can communicate in an email to grab someone's attention. I know it's like the first paragraph, or maybe I'm getting this wrong, but above the fold is always the thing. Like you have to capture people's attention. And so how do you clearly and concisely communicate that story in different ways over and over again so people clearly understand what you're able to do?
Yeah, I'm going to be completely honest with you. I don't do much writing or storytelling. I do more of the strategy and execution and reporting and data and reporting of things. But I can tell you that the simpler, the better. I think people like just getting people to open the email in the first place is really hard. So the simpler, the better. You don't want it to be too stuffy or too corporate. I have some clients where I'm like, let's try to just lighten up the tone a bit. Like people they want that conversational tone versus the more corporate tone, more serious tone. And so that's something that I always recommend. And then also allowing, like, in terms of storytelling, allowing the stories to tell themselves. So actually asking the people that your mission is helping to tell their story and having them write some content and showing it from their perspective, or having somebody on staff write about their perspective of things rather than the stuffy corporate coming from marketing emails. Like those always do really well and they're always opened more in my experience.
Imagine a fundraising partner that not only helps you raise more money, but also supports you in retaining your donors. A partner that helps you raise funds both online and on location so you can grow your impact faster. That's DonorBox, a comprehensive suite of tools, services, and resources that give fundraisers just like you a custom solution to tackle your unique challenges, helping you achieve the growth and sustainability your organization needs, helping you help others. Visit donorbox.org to learn more. Yeah, I've experienced that as well. And I feel like that could be a whole podcast episode in of itself, is how to collect dignified stories. Because generally, when I ask people for stories, they get a little scared because a lot of the nonprofits that I've worked for are youth focused. And people who are experiencing homelessness, and you really want to maintain their dignity and their confidentiality, right? So there's that fine balance of creating that story, but from their voice, because as a fundraiser, I can go in and write a story for them, but it really is important when it adds more dignity when it comes from their voice and they have the chance to amplify their own voice and their experience. I know that you mentioned that you are more into email marketing strategy, and I would love to know, how has, within your own business as an entrepreneur and consultant, how has your marketing strategy changed over the last 4 years and to what you are doing today?
Yeah, so I focus over the years. I've tried a lot of different things, and I think you always put your clients first as a consultant. So I always do their work first, and then I work on my business. And so you only have a little time, and especially if you're a mom and you have other things going on. Some people are consultants but are also working full-time jobs. I think the thing that's helped me the most is just to focus on one or two platforms. When it comes to social media, there's so many platforms out there, and finding what works for you, what you're comfortable with, what you like, and going with that. And so I focus a lot on LinkedIn. That's just where I feel comfortable. I feel like people are in the mindset of learning, connecting, professional development. I can easily find the client, potential clients, based off of their titles. And so it's much easier for me to build a community on LinkedIn than it is on, let's say, Instagram. I use Instagram for my personal business. I have an Instagram account, but I found that last year I was really focusing on trying to grow my Instagram, and I was putting content out, and I wasn't seeing the engagement or growth that I really wanted. And so I was like, you know what, I don't think this is where my people are. And so find where your people are, go there. And that's what I've done. I do some email marketing, but LinkedIn's really where I focus my time and energy, and connecting with people one-on-one. That's how you and I met. We're both consultants, we're both moms, we both work in the nonprofit world. And so let's connect. And so we connected, and that's how I build relationships. And so figuring out what you like to do, what you're good at, what's not going to feel like pulling teeth doing it every day, and do that instead of feeling like you need to be everywhere on everything. Just pick some things. And I like more small knit communities. So we have that Slack channel we're in. And so I focus on those things. And when other things come up where people are like, oh, are you on this? Are you doing that? I try not to let those thoughts come in where I'm like, I should be doing this. I'm not doing enough. Everybody else is doing that. And just focus on a few things, right? And it doesn't feel as overwhelming. And so that's what I do. How about you?
Oof, that one resonates, because I see all these people who have been doing this for years, and I have to keep reminding myself that they've been at the business for years. And I always tell my husband, I'm like, I should be doing more. And he's like, you are going to have 3 kids under 3. You're doing just fine. And I'm like, okay, you're right. It has to be that mindset. And yeah, I found really after working with Tanya Bhattacharya, who we both know, that LinkedIn was where I connected with people. I have my own personal Instagram. I do have an Instagram for the Savvy Fundraiser, but LinkedIn, I've found that I've built more of a community. And what's funny is I've had people reach out to me that have never liked a post, but they watch my content, and they'll reach out to me and be like, hey, I like what you post. And you go back in the data and you're like, maybe you like one post, you haven't really engaged with my stuff, but it really is that mechanism to bridge that next step and build that relationship and engagement. And so, yeah, I've really hung out on LinkedIn. And one of the things that I'm focusing on, so I would love to know from your perspective, because I feel like you do this so well. you balance like posting about working mom life and like the work that you do and like focusing on email marketing strategy? So like how, and I'm in the process of rebranding my LinkedIn and my website and what I offer, but I always feel like I struggle with that. Like I really I feel like I wear many hats and I'm like, what hat do I want to communicate today? And I feel like you do this so clearly and concisely. So like, how have you found that balance of posting about your real life and also what you do, your work life?
Thank you for saying that. That makes me feel so good. I noticed that it's hard to open up and be vulnerable, at least for me. And so I push myself to do it because if people know me as a person, like Katelyn, mom of 2 girls, I used to work at a nonprofit. If I share more about my personality and my interests, my life, then people feel more connected to me and not just like my marketing tips, which I do that too. And so it's important, I think, to show your personality so that people feel like they know you before they know you. And being a mom has just been such a huge part of my identity. It's the reason why I started consulting. When I had my first daughter, I just felt like I didn't have any time with her. I'd drop her off at daycare, I'd pick her up, we'd have dinner, and then it'd be bath time and bedtime. And I'm like, I get an hour with her every night? This is wild. And so it's just such a big part of my identity and like why I started consulting. And I have a passion for helping other moms build their businesses because being a mom is so different than, like you said, you would compare your business to other people. But then when I start thinking about, well, that person doesn't have kids, it changes everything. Like they just take up so much of your time and energy and they're your number one priority. And so for me, it's just important to like share that with other people. And also I'm getting more into coaching and coaching moms on how to build consultancies that are stress-free, that allow them to go pick up their kids from school and work out and make dinner and still have time to like chill, which doesn't seem possible, but I swear it is. So that's something that I'm starting to cultivate that group of people too, because I know down the line, I want to help more moms be where we are, in a place where you can have a business, kids, and a life outside of work and family. I just think it's so important for all of us, all of our sanity.
Yeah, I think that's so important. And like yesterday, I worked, but I also went to the beach with my youngest. So I'm like, there has to be that balance, right? And it's so hard to achieve when we're like told we need to always be working or doing more. But what I found is really like presence is the most productive thing I can do with my kids. And I would love to know, as you're leaning into more coaching for working moms and working mom consultants, like what does balance mean to you? And what does it look like in a practical way? Hey there, podcast family. If you're like me and deeply committed to improving your leadership skills and fostering better connections with your team, I've got something truly amazing to share with you. I'm proud to introduce the EMC Masterclass, something I talk about often as a certified trainer. It's an incredible program developed by the renowned Dr. Lola Gershfeld, an organizational psychologist and corporate emotional connection expert. You might remember her from a podcast episode where she shared invaluable insights into the world of emotional connection. Dr. Gershfeld's EMC Leaders courses are designed for anyone working with people, whether you're a manager, supervisor, team leader, educator, coach, mentor, or a team member. This program is truly for everyone looking to enhance their communication and collaboration skills to raise more revenue for their mission. Now, let me tell you why the EMC Masterclass is a game changer. Dr. Gershfeld's groundbreaking emotional connection process has been integrated into top universities' curriculum and recognized by international organizations like ICF, HRCI, and SHRM. Humans are wired to seek emotional safety, and when we feel safe, we're more likely to take risks, share innovative ideas, and collaborate effectively. The EMC process is the catalyst for creating that emotional safety within your team. The virtual EMC masterclass consists of 8 modules with 4 hours of expertly recorded material, 13 quizzes to reinforce your learning, and a workbook filled with activities for offline practice and something I still refer to daily. Ready to become an emotional connection master? Dr. Gershfield is offering an exclusive detail for our podcast listeners. Use the code LEADWITHHEART to enjoy a generous 10% discount on the EMC Masterclass. Head over to emcleaders.com and enroll in the EMC Masterclass today.
For me, I really want to have fulfilling work. I want to be healthy. I want to have good relationships with my family, my kids, my friends. And I want to feel like all of that's in line. And I want to have financial freedom. That's a big part of it too. And so that's like how I define my success, having all of those things in a good place. And I found that the 40-hour work week didn't allow that for me. There wasn't enough time to do everything. And something always was sacrificed for something else. And it usually was like me, like I'd put myself last, too tired to work out today. And so now I really put myself first and then my family and then work. And so I got my consultancy to a place where I've been only working 25, 30 hours a week, making 6 figures. And that was it. Like I just wanted a few clients that could pay me well. So I had a simple business, but still making good money, and then had time to do everything else or whatever I wanted to do. And so for me, it's like simplicity and making enough that you don't have to worry about where your next client's coming from, like having that predictable income and being able to put yourself first. So whatever that means for you, like going to the gym first in the morning is what sets me up for a good day. And so I like get the kids off to school. I go to the gym and I start my day at 11. I end my day at 4. And I have pretty strong boundaries to my clients are aware. It's communicated at the beginning of our contract. And I'm able to fit everything else in that's important to me as a woman, as a business owner. And so I think for everybody, it's different what their priorities are, but deciding what those priorities are and then building your business around those priorities is something that will help you be a happier person and have like more peaceful life and be less anxious, which I think we're all just so anxious. I was done. I don't want to be anxious anymore. How can I be like happy in my life? And that's what I came up with.
Yes, I absolutely love that. And that's something that I've been really working on this last year is like redefining what success looks like. And like I said before, like presence is with my kids and making those precious moments of like my kid in the water in the middle of January at the beach. Like those are important moments for me. And that's part of what success looks like for me, obviously building my own business as well. But yeah, really having that balance in that time. And it's hard to shift that like mindset, right? Because we're so used to, like, especially at nonprofits, like working all the time and being available at all hours. And I think, like you said, like setting those boundaries. And I'm finding that I need to do that with clients from the get-go of these are my boundaries. These are my working hours. This is how you communicate to me at all hours. Sure, you can send me a text message, but I'll respond when I respond, unless it's urgent. So I think that's super important. And one of the things that I did was really getting clear on my core values and like what that meant to me and really living into that, because that's what led me to living a less anxious life is, does this align with my values and where I want to be right now? So can you talk a little bit about, before we close out, like how people can really set those priorities and be so clearly defined as yours are?
Oh, it took me forever to get there. I think just start somewhere. You don't have to, nothing is perfect. And start somewhere, try new things, and you learn over time. Like you said, you're realizing now, probably because some boundaries have been crossed, like what your boundaries are and what kind of clients you like working with, what kind of clients you don't like working with. And over time, just decide what's important to you, what feels good, trust your gut, reflect on relationships that you're having or how you're being treated with certain clients. And then make sure next time you write that into the contract that if they need you to respond within 24 hours, that's going to be an extra charge. That's a rush fee. Like there are ways to make it worth it to do those things. But I think it's just trial and error. Nothing like I hate when you listen to podcasts and it sounds like everyone has their shit together. This is 4 years of me like making huge mistakes. Like I had an anxiety attack once or twice, and you have those moments to teach you how you can like pivot, adjust, change, get better, improve. And so just figuring that out and just trusting yourself and moving forward after you have those experiences in a way that you know you're improving over time. And so it's hard to do, like you said, it's hard to do when you've already started working with a client, right? And it's like they've already crossed that boundary and you already let it go. And now they think that they can text you at all hours of the night or whatever. That's hard to do when you've already let it go. But what I've learned is then the best part about consulting is like you get a fresh start with every new client. And I've had a lot of clients on like shorter contracts, which has helped me actually figure out what kind of clients I really want to work with. And so with every new contract and every new client, you can adjust the way that you present yourself, the way that you work. And so just make a note of it. And then the next contract you write, put it in there when you do a kickoff call, talk about your hours, talk about how you communicate, and make sure that it just doesn't happen again.
Ooh, that's so good. And you're like making me want to go look at my contracts again as I'm going to be signing on new clients, hopefully. And that's just a good reminder that we have that power to set those boundaries and keep them. And hopefully people will respect them. One thing I've been liking to ask before I ask where people can find you is what's bringing you joy these days?
So I signed back up for a gym. I used to work out in my at-home gym, and I signed up for a local gym, and I'm doing yoga and body pump and just love it. Like getting out of the house, joining other people in a group environment has been such a game changer for me. So especially because I work from home. And so it gives me somewhere to get out of the house and go and see some new faces. So it's been giving me a lot of joy. And I feel good. I feel a little bit better about my health because you get pushed a little more to do new things. So yeah.
Yeah, I feel like working out is always like that mental toughness game. If you can push through one more rep, you can do anything.
Mm-hmm. For sure. For sure.
So where can people find you and connect with you and learn more about what you're embarking on?
LinkedIn's probably the best place. And I have a website, KatelynBaughan.com, if you want to learn more about my business and about me. But LinkedIn's the best place. DM me. I'm happy to set up calls with people if they want to talk a little bit more about their consulting businesses or nonprofit marketing. I'm an open book.
Well, we will link to all of that in the show notes. Thank you so much, Katelyn, for this time. And it was a pleasure getting to chat with you.
Thanks, Haley.
If you have valued these stories or learned something from what you've heard, please share this podcast episode or follow me on LinkedIn. Thank you so much for your support, and together we can build a better community and world.